Happy New Year, everyone. The numbers are in for En Soleil in Panama City Beach for 2021. I'm Craig Duran with the Duran Group over at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. I want to get into the weeds a little bit with the data to give you all an overview of the market. The markets like this don't happen very often. I know it's probably a bit of an understatement, but before I get into the numbers and show you what's happened and what we think is going to happen at least early in 2022, think back to 2008 for a minute and think about what was going on in real estate back then. Either the real estate business you were doing or friends and family. We all have a story of someone we know that had to endure that market and some of the pain from that market. And think back, if you can, for a minute and remember that seemed when it was happening and we were in that market, it seemed like it was going to take a very long time to get out of it. It seemed like things were going to stay there for a long time. And just keep that in mind, because we're in such a really good, healthy real estate market right now, especially if you're an owner, that and we've been in this for a good year and a half now. So keep that in mind, that markets are temporary, markets are cyclical, as you're making decisions about your portfolio going forward. So let's get into numbers for En Soleil. First of all, I want to show you some general things about the condo market and then get into specifics pricing on En Soleil. You probably already have some ideas of some of the recent sales, but I want to give you some ideas about how maybe to proceed in 2022. In 2021, interestingly enough, the same number of units were up for sale at any given time as they were the year before. So there were 11 units that hit the market in 2021, 11 units hit the market in 2020. The number under contract is interesting. That was up 28%. That's only 2 more sales, but if you think about it in terms of percentages, that's a pretty big move. Sold volume, this is where it gets really interesting. We were up 28% in the number of units sold. We were up 75% in volume. Not surprisingly, of course, because the average sales price, and the average sales price doesn't tell the whole story. I'm going to show you that in a minute. The average sales price in 1 year in En Soleil was up 36%. And if you think about that for a minute, what kind of move that is just inside of 1 year, it's pretty incredible. If you look at the overall condo market, I know a lot of you have seen this video before, and then I love this chart. I think it gives us a lot of information about where the market's been and where it's headed. And think about this from a buyer's perspective for a minute. What you're looking at is representative of the entire Gulfront market across Panama City Beach. The red line represents the number of units for sale at any given time. Now let's focus on that for a minute. This right here is the beginning of the pandemic, April, March of 2020. And if you were a buyer right after the pandemic and decided you wanted a condo in Panama City Beach, which a lot of people did, look at what happened to our supply from March of 2020 to April of 2021. Month over month, almost every single month, buyers had fewer and fewer and fewer choices. And think about what the mindset there. If you really want to buy something and you miss out on an opportunity, or you lose a bidding war and turn around, you have fewer choices than you did the day before. This is a pretty intense thing and a very big driver of the market. From April to August, though, look at what happened. It was pretty interesting and not talked about a lot, but the supply actually went up a fair amount. We were probably 2/3 of the way back to pre-pandemic levels. I was interested to see when we got into the off season if that was going to continue or not. It didn't. Look at what's happened since then. Buyers are still buying condos. Supply, we're still in short supply. We're almost headed back to where we were at the very, very bottom in April of 2021. The months of inventory number is an extremely important one to understand. If you haven't heard my spiel on this before, traditionally in real estate, 5 or 6 months of inventory represented a neutral market. The idea of that is just that the process would normally take 5 or 6 months to work through. Seller calls real estate office gets marketing going, arranges for showings, negotiates contracts, gets to the contract, works through the closing, and gets to closing. That whole process normally, traditionally, would take 5 or 6 months. I contend that it takes more like 4 or 5 months now. It just doesn't take us as long to get marketing up and going. We don't have to wait 30 days to run a magazine ad anymore. But if 4 or 5 months is our baseline, is normal, neutral. So think about it. If the whole process now on average is happening in 3 months or 2 months or 1 month, things are happening faster. There's more demand, less supply. We're now living in seller market territory. Excuse me. And seller market territory is the longer we're there, there's more pressure on prices to appreciate. So even when we slowed down, back to this chart in August, we only slowed down, look at this number, we only slowed down to 2.53 months of inventory, which is still a very, very healthy seller's market. Another way to think about it is, theoretically, the pace of sales at 2.53 months of inventory means that we would sell out of the entire Gulfront market in 2.5 months if no new condos came to the market. That's intense. And look at where we are now. End of December, 1.15 months of inventory for the entire Gulfront market. It's hot. It's an extreme number. I can't stress it enough. Just looking at some numbers on a page, we feel like we're in a math lecture in college, but that's a very intense real estate market, still very much a seller's market. And here we are in what a lot of people think are the off season, although this is a very good time to be buying and selling units. If we look at the same chart specifically for En Soleil, it's a little tougher to really glean anything from because there's so little data, but same idea. Look, we had kind of a run up at the beginning of the pandemic. Inventory levels came down, they've popped up again, and now they're back down again. Same idea. Months of inventory in En Soleil has been, since the beginning of the pandemic, it hasn't been over 2 months of inventory. Severe demand. Finally, I think we're catching on that prices can move where they need to move. One more way to look at this, August of this year. If you look back to this active column is the same idea as the red line on the chart. It's the number of units for sale. So here we are again, down 30 to 40% in supply. But we were writing fewer contracts. We were writing 15, 18, 17% fewer contracts in August. September, we were writing 31, 33% fewer contracts year over year. A little pop to 41, but down 28. But look in December. Inventory supply has gone down from 36 to 49% year over year in the same month. And the number of contracts written, check this out, 35%, 32%, 8%, up 62%. Last week of December, we wrote 62% more new contracts on condos, Gulfront condos. Now think about why and think about what's happening for a minute. It doesn't apply as much to En Soleil, but a lot of people are either buying for something to be some kind of investment and put on a rental program. Plenty of people are buying as have a true second home. Occasionally we have the primary buyer inside of these condos. So the reason that red line went up in April to August, so many of the condos that buyers are trying to buy are rented that time period. That's the highest of our season. It's hard to get in and really assess what it is you're trying to buy. So for us, there are a lot more condo contracts being written on the fringe part of the season when it's easy to evaluate what it is you're trying to do. So not surprising, the experienced condo owner buyer is shopping in November, December, January. They want to have a closing in place, get the unit ready, not only the inside of the unit, but any management, if they're going to do rentals, any management websites, all that taken care of. So if revenue season starts March 1, they're ready. So that's happening now. So, we'll get to the strategy in a minute. Let me show you some pricing. I went back. I've been running these for the buildings and going back just to December 1st in buildings where there's more activity. But I went back to June for us in En Soleil just because there's generally a little less activity. You've probably seen all this already, but to revisit it, we've had 1 2-bedroom sale since then, 810,000. Look at the 3 bedrooms, $1,087,500, 1.1 million, 1.41 million. All those sold, closed. Asking price on one of the units is asking 1.6 right now. We all know the views and floor heights very much matter, especially on those end units inside of En Soleil. So that'll matter a lot. But if you're thinking about selling in 2022, a couple things from a strategy standpoint. Certainly, if you're thinking about selling early in the season, the spring season, get your marketing in place sooner rather than later. Like I said, buyers are already shopping for the beach season, and that's going to do nothing but speed up over the next 30 to 45 days. Take some time and get your videos and photography and websites built and the marketing part of it, and get your marketing out there. This stuff needs time to get out to people, especially plenty of the buyers for a unit in En Soleil are going to be living somewhere else. They need time to digest this. Everyone's getting back to work or getting out of travel and those kinds of things. And so we all have a lot going on. Getting your marketing out early is a good way to get in front of more eyeballs. And you're not just at the mercy of the unit hits the market, I got an offer in 24 hours. Ooh, do I need to negotiate that one or not? Let the marketing have time to work so we have more people that look at it, so you find the person who's really going to pay the most. That's some advice for if you're selling in the spring. And also, this is the time still, you see the extreme demand that we have. This is still the time to price aggressively, almost uber aggressively. This is the time to do that, especially if we're not really in a rush to have a closing yet. Let the market work in your favor a bit. Get some marketing going now. Let things percolate a little bit. And as things warm up and we get a little more into the height of selling season, you have more people that have already seen this unit, and you can do very well. If you're thinking about using the unit a few more times this year or renting it and maybe selling in 2022, but towards the end of the year, think about the same strategy applies. Instead of selling at the end of rental season, calling the real estate office the day after Labor Day, think about marketing in June and July. Same idea applies. There's people who are planning on trips in August and September to evaluate units, but they're doing their research in advance. And so the earlier your message is out there, the more people will see it. Same strategy, depending on what's happening in the market. You could probably be a little aggressive then too. Probably a little more risk waiting until later in the year, only from a standpoint of what could happen with interest rates. If anything happens globally, nationally, with the economy, of course, those are some things that could hit demand. If something happened in the stock market, real dramatic, that could affect demand for sure, especially in something like this. So if it's time to liquidate, think about the timing of those things. We're still on a very good trajectory if you're an owner and you're selling. With this kind of demand, we don't see anything in the near future sending prices in the other direction. At the very least, we see things staying flat, if not moving up a touch. If I'm selling it on Soleil, I'm probably going to work on pushing my pricing a little bit. It would be worth taking the time to put some finishing touches and pretty up a unit if it needs something here and there. But it's a really, really extreme market. I know if most of you are watching this, you're on our e-alert program. If you're not, let me know. Just shoot me a text to 850-527-0221. The e-alert system I'm talking about is very accurate, is what I like about it the most. It takes, anytime a unit goes up for sale, changes price, or sells inside of a project, you can get an email alerted to that. And the sales price is very accurate. It comes right from our system. It's a accurate sales price, accurate sales date. Sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. But it's a very, very good way to stay up with any market you want to watch. You can do it just for En Soleil. I can set it up for really any building or neighborhood. I can set it up just for 2 bedrooms. I can set it up just for 3 bedrooms. However you think about a search, I can set it up for you, and you can have these alerts coming to you. And it's a very convenient, easy way, accurate way to stay up with the market. So if you want that, again, shoot me a text or an email, and I'll set you up. There's no charge for that or obligation to work with us. I just like that it's accurate. So it's good to have that information out there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you're watching still at 14 and a half minutes, I know it's a lot, but I just wanted to remind people that how good and intense this market is. So don't take that for granted when you're selling. Don't underprice. Make sure you have some strategies to push pricing in this market. You have to have an idea of how high you can go, and you also have to have an idea and a strategy to be able to get something closed like that. It's not easy to set records, even when the market's helping you. You have to have ideas to combat potentially low appraised values and things like that. And we did it a lot last year. I think there was 26 or 27 of our sales last year were setting prices and pushing prices, which is easier to do when the market's helping you, but it isn't a slam dunk. So don't leave money on the table in a market like this. If you're buying anything right now, whether it's an En Soleil or somewhere else, just make sure you're evaluating. And when you find something good, it's hard to do right now. Make good, clean, strong offers. Clean is sometimes as important as a strong price. We won a bidding war last week on a $775,000 unit, and we won because we had better terms. So keep that in mind too. If there's anything I can do to help, if you want to strategize on anything, I'm happy to sit down and either take a call, do a Zoom call, meet in person just to talk about the market in general. Even if you're not doing anything right away, always happy to give you my 2 cents. So again, thanks for watching. Happy New Year. We'll be back in touch next month.